stuck here. The cops won't bother me. And I wanted to talk to you guys about the disadvantages of putting a Darkside tire on your motorcycle. I've done one which states the advantages, which I am totally into. And I've ridden motorcycles for quite some time. I put hundreds and thousands of miles on motorcycles, all sorts of motorcycles, and it's all been on motorcycle tires until recently when I started using this Darkside tire. I have nothing to gain. I don't have any sponsorship. I don't really care about if you like me or not. It's kind of useless to me. But I do want to tell people some of the disadvantages to riding with a car tire on your motorcycle. There's a few. And it's not all sunshine and roses when you're riding a Darkside tire. So let's go into the video and talk about some of the disadvantages of putting a car tire on your motorcycle. Your friends might disown you. This is kind of like something that people get very aggressive with other riders online on the internet. They belittle others that do this because they assume that you have to do what they do. But then again, people think that you should use the same oil that they're using on their motorcycle. You should use the same gear that they're using. So that's one of the things, like you might have to be the pariah in your community of motorcyclists. Now, when it comes to having a large contact patch like this, it also means that you have such a large contact patch that mileage will decrease slightly. That's okay. I think for me it's decreased about 1 to 2 miles per gallon because there's so much more rolling resistance in this tire than a thinner motorcycle tire that has a little bit of contact patch on the ground. For me, it's an acceptable decrease. Riding on gravel and adventure riding, it's a little bit harder because you have such a flat tire that if you ride on gravel, if there's a little bit of a rut, the tire tends to kind of go into that ditch and follow it. So it's a much better tire for pavement riding, but I have ridden quite a bit on gravel. The only problem you're going to encounter is that if the gravel is very bumpy and stuff like that, and the tire somehow catches, because the tendency of this is to stay straight. And when there's like ruts on the road, you can kind of feel it a little bit more. Another disadvantage is that finding the right tire for your bike could be a little bit harder. There are databases online. It's the Darkside database where you can find tires that fit your bike specifically. What I recommend is if you like riding twisties and stuff like that, get a sport car tire. That's what I have on this. It's a BF Goodwrench Comp 2, which is a very good sticky tire for aggressive riding in the corners. And yes, Darkside tires go pretty well in the corners. Another disadvantage is that it takes a little bit of time to get used to the tire because it doesn't really handle like a motorcycle tire. The motorcycle tires are, of course, round, so they're a little bit more flickable. The car tire will take you a little bit of an initial learning because it takes about, I would say, about 100 miles to kind of get used to the tire. But that's pretty normal. Even on a motorcycle tire, when I fitted a motorcycle tire, every tire feels different to me. And this one feels very different. But that's pretty much it. If you somehow had a blindfold on and you had a car tire when you were expecting a motorcycle tire, you would just kind of like think it's a motorcycle tire. There's not that much difference. It's just the initial like leaning in and cornering that takes a little bit of used to. Then afterwards, it's easy. When I rode my CB500, I was a little surprised how the CB500 handled. I think that this one with a car tire handled a little bit better than the CB500 did with a motorcycle tire. So a lot of it has to do with you getting used to the tire. Another disadvantage is that some shops won't fit these tires in. I don't recommend you putting on the tire yourself because it is pretty difficult putting one of these on. So you have to take it to a shop. And oftentimes shops won't put it on because they fear like a liability thing. And that's fine. What you do is just take it to a car shop with the rim and then they'll install it, no problem. Now the number one thing that I find that's a disadvantage is flickability. Flickability is decreased. So oftentimes with the motorcycle tire, I can just whip around my motorcycle very easy. This one, it's reduced by a little bit. It's not by much. So even when you're cornering, this tire will feel just as good as a motorcycle tire, but I would say in a range of 100%. A car tire on a motorcycle decreases the range that you can ride the bike by about like 5 to 10%. And that's not to say that that's a bad decrease. I can ride this bike just as fast as any other of my friends on R1s, GSXRs, and the Twisties. There's no problem at all. A lot of it has to do, of course, with the rider. But oftentimes when I'm riding with riders, you're not really exceeding a lot of the bike's capabilities. Of course, if you're on a racetrack, this kind of twistiness, it's going to affect it a little bit more. But on the street, there's hardly any difference. It's just that initial bit that you have to worry about. So squids, that's some of the disadvantages to riding on the dark side that you have to kind of like think about when you're thinking about putting a car tire on your motorcycle. Like I said to you guys before, a lot of this is mental. When you think about Harley riders and sport bike riders, it would be kind of silly to see a sport bike rider wearing like a Harley outfit with like black leather and like, you know, chaps on a sport bike, and vice versa. So a lot of this is kind of like we have these preconceived notions of what motorcycle riders do and should do. And my advice to you guys is not to worry about all of these preconceived notions about what tires and what engine oil goes in your bike. What you have to do is just go out there and ride. It's not so much about the kind of stuff that you use on your bike. It's you going out in the world and riding, and not worry about people's opinion online. Like I said before, usually people online have a lot of time on their hands to talk about things, about bikes. They're not really doing a lot of riding. And that's the reason you can't really believe people online very much, because oftentimes they don't have that much experience. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. And if you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.